Yeah, I think I saw him last week. We had a thing.
It's Rich. He didn't say it
Yeah, he's just one. Yeah, when I get to that, yeah, we'll do basically to approve the agenda. No, just all right. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is just call Nope, she does that because it's not done yet. All right, it's 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the meeting. We're gonna call this meeting to order. First item is to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask the person who's recording that you would go to the designated area in the back. Will you move for us?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next item is the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Are we going to do that public hearing, talk about the public hearing or not?
No.
Okay. No changes to the agenda. Then I will move that we approve the agenda. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, we have motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Approval of the minutes from December 12th and January 9th.
Move we approve.
Support. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, then we go move to the call to the public. Now I want to kind of go over something on this call to the public. Like we did in the last meeting, there's a 3-minute limit, and we're going to enforce the 3 minutes. We're not going to let people go over because we have a lot of people here. We want to kind of keep this moving along. So if you have something to say, watch the clock, and when it gets close to 3 minutes, please wrap up your comments and return to your seat. I would appreciate that. Also, if you're planning on speaking, and we ask that people sign in at the back of the room. That's something that we would request. There's a signing in sheet back there, so if you do that for us. So please respect the 3-minute limit. At the first public hearing, or public comment, we will talk about things that are on the agenda only. We will also be having a chance to comment during the master plan public hearing, so there'll be a second one. And then at the end of the meeting, there'll be an additional call to the public that you can bring up anything that would be relevant to the planning commission. Okay? All right, so call to the public. Who's first?
I'm Chris.
So one of the things is that I know you want to save time, but public hearings aren't about saving time. And you want to hear what the public has to say, then why would you put a ridiculous limit of three minutes per person? We should be able to comment on a 156-page document that we studied for more than 3 minutes. So I think that's ridiculous. Second, I did actually read it, and I have some comments. One observation is there's a lack of mapping to our current ordinances. The master plan, the whole first section of it, is a lot of great data, but it doesn't say, here's an ordinance that we have that supports this part of the master plan. I'd love to see that kind of mapping, because the plan is a goal that we work to. It's an action, right? So this action that we want to work for the next 10 years could be better served if we actually show what actions through ordinances support the master plan as you go through. So mapping these two existing ordinances and things like that could be helpful. It's also void of what the actual township is supposed to look like in 10 years. So 10 years from now, we don't really see, we see a lot of goals and objectives, but we don't really see a statement that says, here's where we want it to go, and here's what it's going to look like 10 years from now. So I'd love to see that. You have lots of data and charts, which are great, and in my study of them, there's no actual analysis after all this data. I mean, if you're going to throw a chart up there that compares ages of people, for example, and you've got the median age is going up and the family age of young children is going down, then one of the things you should say is, because of this median age, then we should be looking for programs that support an older group of people in our township. Maybe like trail systems or things like that could be implemented. But you have nothing also in this master plan about trails or parks or things like that the township would be responsible for. So it's clear that you're not looking today, as it's reflected, in the things that would actually help the township. And where would you get money to do that stuff? You would actually get money from maybe COVID. We sat around for 3 years in our houses and stuff. It'd be great for us to use COVID money. There was over $1 million given to this township to actually build some things that get people outside and interacting and healthy again. But from this perspective, there's zip in the master plan for that. So I hopefully you'll take that into consideration. The other thing is you talk about groundwater in section 6.3. And groundwater is really important, as you know. I'd love to see that mapped up to the solar ordinance that we have and how that's going to destroy the groundwater. I'll be back at the next comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I'll say, who brought that guy? I'd like his number, if anybody knows who he is. No, it's a joke. Okay, my name's Jeanette. You guys know who I represent, Tyrone Township Watch. My first comments are concerning the solar ordinance, which is the regular meeting tonight. At the last planning commission meeting, you guys asked the lawyer some questions. When she left, the residents said they have questions that you, the planning commission, did not ask her. I made a suggestion. Why not have the residents submit their questions directly to you? Then you could pick the questions that were relevant and you could ask her. I also expressed my disappointment in not getting answers to my emails. And after the evening, Steve, you approached me as the newly elected planning chairman. You gave me your email, assured me that you'd answer my emails. I've emailed you, Steve, you answered one question, and suddenly you went silent also. So now not a single elected or appointed official will communicate with me, but you all say, just send me an email with your questions. I've also been asking for quite some time about the wind ordinance. We need a battery storage ordinance also. Why doesn't the township want to protect the people with these urgently needed ordinances? Kurt, you're on the board also. I'm wondering why you haven't brought this up, these concerns during the board meetings. 3 ordinances have many similar requests. Our expert lawyer can for sure handle that. And you can't claim that you don't have enough time to work on this because you guys canceled 10 workshops last year, 10. Besides the lawyer going to do most of the work anyway, which we residents are very grateful for. In summary, I have 3 requests. I'm really asking you, please Steve, would you answer my emails? Number 2, I'm asking you to allow us to submit our questions for the lawyer for you to review. And I'm asking you to beg the board to be allowed to start writing 2 ordinances immediately for the wind ordinance and the battery storage ordinance. Both should be put under a moratorium right away. Also, my next part of the comment is about the master plan and the difficulty in getting the right information. The Planning Commission claims the draft we're looking at today, and by the way, a lot of people have asked me, where is it? Where is it? Why aren't there copies made for people to look at tonight? Getting the right information. The draft that we're looking at today has been the same. It says that the draft has been the same since October when you posted it on the master website. Several weeks ago, I noticed it was not a clean copy. It had mistakes and history changes. I contacted you, Mateo, no answer from you. I contacted the board, no answer from the board. I contacted any officials that I could, no answer. So I went back about 3 weeks later and noticed it had been changed out. Then it was changed out again. And this is what I told you in an email, Steve, and no one bothered to let me know. So today I still have no assurance that we are looking at the actual document that was supposed to have been sent to the surrounding communities. It hindered my review.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
Other comments? Seeing none, we will close the first call to the public, and we will open the first item of new business, which is the master plan public hearing. I'm going to, at this time, close the normal public or planning commission meeting and open the public hearing.
Move that we open the public hearing.
Move that we, okay, so motion to open the public, is there support? Support. Motion and support, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. So we are now in the public hearing. Appreciate your help there, Kurt. I'm going to read the notice here. It says, please take notice that the Tyrone Township Planning Commission will hold a public hearing to consider the proposed master plan. The hearing will be held during regular meeting February 13th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Township Hall located at 8420 Runyon Lake Road. So that is what we are here for, that part. And again, we will go back to opening public comments. Does anyone have something they would like to bring up? And for this, you do need to state your name and address because this is part of an actual public record. So for
I
this,
won't state my address for the word to hear.
no, I'm asking that you do. That's all I can do is ask.
It's a mess.
It's an ask.
Hi, it's Chris. You have on record, I don't want to be doxxed, so I'm not going to be doxxed and give you my address, but you have it on record, you know who I am. I just paid my taxes, by the way. So my second section of comments I'd like to point out is that based on that groundwater in section 6.3, you say, yeah, we got to protect the groundwater. But then you pass all these ordinances saying we don't want to fight for, the residents have to push you to fight to build an ordinance for solar industrial plants that pollute this great groundwater that we're supposed to have. The other one I have is in section 11.13, if you're recording, Mateo, that under the future land use, you have no plans for creating parks, trails, recreation of any kind for the township. Again, that goes back to my earlier township, but why? I have to ask why you wouldn't want to help the health of an aging population here in Tyrone Township by providing some access to these types of things with all this great land we have. In section 12 of the master plan, you talk about education, but you have no activities to actively facilitate educating the residents. You say in there that you've got a once-a-year annual place where you're going to hold a meeting and people can come in and learn about the master plan and you can ask questions. Well, we ask a lot of questions, but you never answer them. So this is the problem I have with you guys. Are you going to actually have an interaction with the public? That's really rare, so I hope you do. But education, a library does not provide education. It provides information, lots of it. When you post things and make it available online and printed materials are available, that's not educating people. Education, because my parents were teachers, comes in an active format. We educate someone on something. So whether you're good, I would suggest doing videos, doing video clips, break it down by section. Here's what it is. Get some cool people, maybe even resident volunteers to help with this process of actually educating this township in a better way than just making something available. So go read 156 pages and go to sleep and do that. Now I found some other areas interesting too. For another error, this is obviously an error, 12.6, implementing strategies. You have listed parks and improvements as one of those strategies. However, as I mentioned a couple times, you have no parks in this plan. So that's an error. That should probably be removed from that category. All right, so make sure that that gets updated, please. And I also think that, going back to this COVID money, yeah, we should really spend this COVID money. Rather, it's nice to have roads. It's really nice, good roads, but we need health. We need healthy people who live here, and we need people to come here and bike on trails and be able to do that. Safe zones on the roads, maybe biking trails and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road. Our biggest problem is enforcement. All this is for naught if we don't enforce. Some things we enforce, some other people we don't. And I'm not even, I think Kurt knows which ones I'm talking about. There's been situations that are going on for over a year. And just, I guess it's who you know. I guess, it just looks bad because I brought it up at the board meeting. Got a supervisor that looking for donations for his bass fishing stuff. So he's asking for people to help him, financially, sponsors. So when I see somebody that's not adhering to what the rules are, you kind of wonder. Is money getting passed under the table? I don't know. But it sure doesn't look good. Don't look good when you've got a supervisor doing that. And there's some people that get harassed like hell when they want to do something. So, I look at it this way, what are we here for? Everybody should be treated fairly, equally. And what we're doing here should mean something. But I've seen, over the years I've been here, I've seen some people get harassed like him, and some people just go on, and just keep getting, well, we'll take you to court, we'll take you to court. Well, and then when you take them to court, they browbeat you to death for 2 years, and then they're awarded, what they want to do, and then they just keep violating after that. So it just gets tired, you're just tired of seeing that stuff. So, like I said, I think hopefully we get enforcement worked out in this. We need to really make sure we get enforcement.
Thank you.
I'm Jeanette. Something to add to what Scott said. The actual post by Mr. Cunningham said, I want money, private message me and we'll talk about what we can do for each other. Okay. So why didn't someone explain what the master plan and the ordinance and all of this is? We have a room full of people that I'll bet many of them don't know really what's going on about this. It would have been nice to have a small introduction. No, I did not. The last, Okay, so one of the comments I wanted to talk about what's in this master plan, one of your comments or one of your lines in there is completely inaccurate. So first of all, in the 2012 master plan, it says that we will protect historic resources. By the way, that's been removed from the new master plan. And we have an old historic townhouse. A couple of, what happened in the new draft is it says the township board worked with Tyrone Township Historic Society to move the historic townhouse to its new location. That statement's complete distortion of what really happened and needs to be removed. And that's called changing history. Who suggested that sentence be included? I can compile many meeting clips that show the supervisor's complete disdain for this building and his refusal to work with the community. And here's the truth. This needs to go in the master plan. The historic townhouse was allowed to go into horrible disrepair under the supervisor's watch. He crafted a real estate deal and sold the old historic townhouse during the COVID shutdown right under the people's feet. And a couple years previous to that, it was supposed to go to a nonprofit, if not being used by the township, but he waited for that to expire and then he put it up for sale. The residents found out about this sale, immediately began working on ways they could get it back. Thankfully, the man whom the supervisor sold the townhouse to decided it needed to go back to its rightful owners, the people of Tyrone Township. It is now in its new and rightful home because of the Historical Society and in spite of the supervisor. The solution, please remove that sentence from the master plan because that's not what happened. They did not work with them. They only jumped in at the very end when there was no other choice. I'm suggesting that the Planning Commission do this. First, do not send this draft to the board for approval. Instead, hold another visioning session, which the one you told us about in December, but you sent someone to go talk to the board. You never told us what the answer was, and immediately you just scheduled this public hearing. So I'm asking you to take that back, schedule the extra visioning session that Rich, who is not here tonight, said we really need to have that. And then this time, do everything you can to get the word out to the people, not just the bare minimum. Use all the free tools that you have. Why is it not, even tonight, not on the front
Thank you.
page of the website?
Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Sarah Dillon Jersey, and I live on Foley Crossing. I wanted to bring up two things with my comment tonight. One is that at the start of master planning and through the two visioning sessions that were held, there was a lot of discussion from residents and even some of our planning commission members about putting together a Parks and Rec plan, which I think is possibly separate and funded separately from what you all are doing now. And so after sitting through those visioning sessions, I would just encourage you to still advocate for adding that component. And the reason is because that is what opens doors to future planning and funding from outside sources instead of closing that door shut tight and there's zero opportunity. And I know with parks and recs and trails, there are a lot of things that come with that, maintenance, liability, potential expenses to the township. And so I'm not suggesting that we jump in the deep end and put ourselves in financial jeopardy, but I would like to see an open door to exploring possibilities for how we can provide that for the residents. There are many of them that came to those visioning sessions, and that was a common thread that I heard. So I'm just putting that out there. I didn't prepare a statement for tonight, and I'm listening to Jeanette's comments, and I understand where she's coming from. There's a lot of backstory on the townhouse project. It wasn't always easy, the road was rocky, but we've come a long way in trying to build and mend relationships. We did have to get to a point where the board worked together with us, or that building would not be sitting there. And as the president of the Historical Society, we have worked so hard, tirelessly, to take the burden off the township funding that project as much as humanly possible. So, yeah, it's not been easy, but I'm grateful for where we're at, and I'm grateful that the board did decide to come together and support us and work with us on that. I would like to see preservation stay part of the master plan in some form, whether the language gets edited or not. It needs to be part of our community's vision for the future. Historical preservation is something that I'm passionate about, and from working with so many residents to raise a lot of money in the last 2 to 3 years, I know it matters to them too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Dean Haas, with the Wallace Shores, Fenton here on Run Lake. Had an opportunity to sit down tonight, since I've had all the time, since I can't do a whole lot, to read this so-called master plan that you guys put together. I work for Consumers Energy, and I know for the last at least 5 years, we've been talking about green energy. And yet there's not a single word in our master plan that identifies, addresses, or has anything to do with green energy in our township. And I want to know why. How can you guys put together a master plan for a community and not address that issue. Whether it be for or against, whatever, but there's nothing at all. I'd be embarrassed to be a board right now that can't address an issue that's gonna impact this community the way it's going to. I think the whole thing should be sent back. I don't think it should be sent to the board. I think you need to sit down with the community and understand what we want and what this community needs, and then readdress this at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, we're gonna close.
Sir,
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
with as many people as are here, I thought there was gonna be more people volunteer to talk, otherwise I would have spoke up sooner, but my name is Steve Hasbrook, Fawcett Road resident. I looked at the document online today. I've looked at it in the past also, and I've been to some of the visioning sessions, and there's no table of contents in it currently, which makes it hard to read the document and look at sections that needs to be dealt with, that clearly needs to be put in there. The future land use titles being changed, I think, is gonna cause you to have to rewrite all of the zoning ordinance to fit those, the verbiage to match, which I guess you guys probably already know that, but, you know, the planner clearly does, which they're gonna, you know, be able to spend plenty of hours doing that. I don't think you should change the, you know, the wording for like RE or FR. You know, doesn't make a lot of difference. It's, people can decipher, you know, agricultural, natural resources to just plain FR, farming residential. It's not a lot different, so. The current master plan dated in 2012 has a proposed sanitary service areas, which I brought that up at a visioning session that you guys didn't have it in the proposed stuff, which you should. You know, it's part of a future plan. You need to put it in there, whether you want to ruffle feathers or not. It needs to be there so people know what to expect, and developers could look at certain parts of the township versus others, and that's mainly it. But yeah, I think all in all, when I looked at this whole process, you guys should have looked at the master plan and made corrections and updated the data, but instead you decided to jump in with nothing and start out from scratch, and I think that's caused part of your troubles, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Don't wait. All right, then we're gonna close the comments part of the public hearing, and we will go into the planning commission and planner comments. All right. Anybody have anything to?
Why don't you start with the tab?
Yeah, Mateo, why don't you go over where we're at exactly, because we do want to move this. My goal is to keep this moving along, because we have been working on this for 2 years.
Sure.
To move this along and get this to where we can get it to the Livingston County Planning Commission for their review. First question is, have we had any comments from the local municipalities? Because that was what we were waiting on.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't believe anything came back after the 63-day period.
I haven't seen anything.
Nothing, okay.
Yeah. So the next statutory step is it goes to your township board for approval. The step of it being sent to the county is something that the township has opted to do, and it's not an unadvised step to take to have Livingston County look over the draft ones you have in the form that you're prepared to send. But the next statutory step is it would go to your township board for final approval.
Do you think we should send it to the, I think we should do that first.
What, send it to the county board?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ross and I talked about it. I mean, that was kind of the directive or the next step that they wanted to take.
Before going, that first step is PC, or the Livingston County, prior to going to township board approval.
Right, that makes sense. And then see what they had before we see if there's anything we need to revise. John, that was brought up with the parks part of the ordinance. Have you read that at a prior meeting? You brought that up, that was actually in there? Can you find that? And there, I mean, housekeeping issue, there is gonna be a table of contents, right, Mateo?
Yes, yes. They, usually through the drafting process, we leave it blank just because changing if to than can knock off all the page numbers and
Sure.
you just change them after, but we do have it and it will be included.
How close would,
When I've been reviewing it, I open it in a PDF and there's bookmarks, so I didn't really look for a table of contents, but
No,
I
that's
think that would help.
100%, yeah, we wait to populate it with the page numbers until we've got the draft.
when you send it to the county, will that be part of it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because Fenton, Brighton, Osceola, all those have table of contents in their master plan, so. It makes sense, obviously, that's
Yeah,
a
makes a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Find what you want.
Yep.
And there are sections within the draft where it references the map on a page, and right now it's just 2 X's, because again, we wanted to wait until all the wording was where it was, because I can throw off what page number those are found on.
Should we get that all brought in before we send it out?
Well, Kurt, what do you think?
Well, the whole process is that we would send something that would be as close to a final as possible to the board, or to the Livingston County.
Yeah, so
So,
with the minimal comments that have been coming in, the changes that we're making, I think it's worth putting everything, getting the formatting correct now.
yeah,
But we don't need to hold up for a meeting, do we?
No.
Just handle it administratively? Yeah, I'd like to clean that up if you could, and make sure when it's on the website for the township, it's complete and
Yeah.
clean.
Yep.
And whatever you're gonna send to the county, make sure that's the same thing we have on the township's website, so
Yep.
that it's consistent.
Mateo, you might address too the fact that because we did basically start from scratch with the master plan on our rewrite, that there are a number of ordinances that will have to be adjusted in order to facilitate the implementation of the master plan. We had been working on that for at least 3 years to try to get all of the ordinances in sync with, when we change one, then it would affect something else in another portion of the plan. So that's one thing that we have to establish as our next project that we're going to complete once we get the master plan finished.
Sure.
Because the question is what goes first? Well, the master plan has to come first in order to get the ordinances in order.
Correct, it's the best practice to go in that order.
That's what, that's what we were planning on anyways,
Yeah.
is to do that, so. Thanks, Kurt.
Steve, as far as the comment on the Parks and Recreation, that you do have that in there in the goals and objectives for 10.7 community facilities and public service. Objective 2, ensure adequate and appropriate recreational opportunities for township residents, identify specific park and recreation needs in cooperation with Livingston County, explore development of a Parks and Recreation plan, which I think, is in addition to the master plan, so I think.
But how does that affect under 12.6, where 12.6 talks about what's currently there?
Well, yeah, it says,
Right, like that.
potential areas to address, or include in a capital
Or
improvement
include,
plan.
right, so it's under
Include
potential.
the following.
Okay.
So that's park improvements. Well, if we established a Parks and Recreation plan and had a park, then we would want to include that in the capital
Okay,
improvement plan. So,
Yeah, there were a lot of different ideas floated as to what we should be doing and what we can do. We know that we are the only township in Livingston County that does not have a park. We recognize that. But the other issue is how you would fund something, and so that those have to be worked out. And granted, there was COVID money available for certain items, but there are also grants and things that are available to do
That's for the
that kind of
township
stuff.
board, it's not for the planning commission.
So-
side.
I mean, what we're not looking to do is to have a referendum on a tax increase to support a Parks and Recreation thing at this time. I think the situation we're going to have to look at is to put together a plan on what we want to do and then determine the methodology to fund it.
Yeah, and I think that the comment about getting the grants, the first step is having a park recreation plan.
Right.
If you go to a government entity that's gonna hand out a grant, and you don't have that, a
They
parks and
wanna see
recreation
that.
plan.
Yeah.
And so that's also an objective too, is research grant opportunities for park and recreation. So, and things that we can do on the planning commission for those, also under here, objective two is require new residential developments to provide recreation area, open space, and parks for residents, and require new residential developments to provide trails and sidewalks, so.
Right.
So that's in there, all right.
Well, it's objectives.
It's an objective, right,
And
it's a
the
goal.
plan hasn't been done yet,
Yeah.
but that's the stuff that we gotta use in this master plan to,
But it's a
Right.
goal, okay.
Master plan says that we have that as an objective, so how
Yeah,
we
and one thing-
accomplish that is what we have to determine.
yeah, and one thing we can't do is just put this on the shelf and
Right.
not follow these, and probably, you know,
Look at
I would say establish a parks and recreation,
subcommittee.
plan. Well, a plan, I don't know how that's gonna be.
Yeah.
Set that up, okay.
Well, we can take a look at a number of, I'm sure you guys have some copies of Parks and Recreation plans that we can take a look at too.
Sure.
In regards to, Mateo, can you describe in the future land use map, how we use those land designations compared to the zoning ordinance? Because those don't, they're not using the exact same terms for a reason. One of them is a zoning term, one of them is a future land use term. Is it?
Correct. So they shouldn't mirror each other because the future land use is kind of your statement on where you want to take your zoning ordinance and what direction you want to take it to. So these are their own designations, but they don't come with like restrictions or regulations. They come with parameters, typically by lot size and by lot use. But they're meant to be general. They're not meant to reflect your current zoning. They're meant to be kind of what we use as we enter into a zoning update or rewrite to reflect that this is the type of land use we want in the future in these places.
And I think by changing the terms for our future land use from our 2012 master plan, we changed those terms for this master plan. Basically, we had a lot of different industrial, pyro, we had pyro and a bunch of different industrial type uses, where now we kind of focused on just one industrial area, really pared that area down, and basically expanded the residential portion of the future land use.
Yeah, and if I recall, there was a desire to kind of simplify what you had under your future land use because it was almost too prescriptive for a future land use. Here, planned industrial could be broken out into 2 or 3 different zoning designations, but for you guys, it's kind of the bird's eye view. This is where we want to focus our industrial.
Well, you know, the issue is too, none of us are clairvoyant and know what's going to happen 10 years from now.
Right.
And unfortunately, when the 2012 plan was put together, no one knew about COVID. And all of the ramifications of that. And the pyro things and stuff that we had put in the plan originally addressed, you know, strip malls and taking a look at having food centers and other things that would be available. And that's probably not going to happen. So it's always easy to look back and say what we should have done in 2012.
Sure.
But nobody understands for sure what's going to happen 10 years from now. We just don't want to make it so that some of the things that we've set up for objectives can't happen. The purpose is to try to assume that going forward, we're going to try to maintain the rural nature of our township as well as manage the process of development. And that's what the master plan is for.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that it is a very frequent reference when it comes to development reviews and new construction reviews and things of that nature. You know, is your master plan in a position to support whether you approve or deny certain things that are coming down the pipeline? So yeah, I mean, I think you've put it in a position where it's got enough detail to allow you to make those decisions, but it's not so prescriptive that you're in handcuffs when you do.
Well, we just want to make sure that we maintain flexibility so that we can,
Yeah.
rather than be reactive, is to be proactive in this process.
Yes.
Because we spend most of the time being reactive.
You're not the only ones.
Do we need a motion, though, to move this? Recommend. All right, so I'm going to make a motion that we send this to the Livingston County Planning Department for their comments. And then when we get those comments back, we review those before we move it on.
With the minor changes that we
With the changes that we talked about.
Add the table of contents, formatting,
Yeah.
mostly formatting stuff.
Yeah, and then have that also.
Get all the maps in there. There's some sections that say, see,
Right, yep.
And make sure, Carrie, that's mirrors what's on this.
I think you can include in your motion also to, after we receive the review from the county, to refer to the township board for approval. It can be part of the motion.
But did we want to look at it first?
I think we should look at the comments.
do it.
We want to look at, I think before we do that, we want to look at the comments first. We want to take a little gap in the middle there. As a center right on down, okay?
Sure.
All right, so there's my motion.
Support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing.
We need to move back into the regular meeting.
And move back into our regular planning commission meeting for the next item.
So moved.
So, sorry, we got to do that? Okay.
support.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we're good.
Now we're back.
Thanks for helping out, Kurt. First time I've done one of these. All right, so now we go into old business and utility scale solar. We did have our person come in and comment last week, last month.
meeting,
The attorney. Give us an update on how that has gone.
So there's been correspondence between the township, us, and the attorney on the solar ordinance language. I know that they've put together they put together kind of their if-then clause, where if your state nameplate are higher, then you're going with the regs set forward by the state. And then most of the language that we've been working on, the attorney had some questions about, but not major edits. They just came in, so we're still kind of working through what they are, but there's been correspondence between the language. There's a few other items that we need to work with the attorney on addressing, as far as, again, kind of making sure it's the language and kind of all of the restrictions and or terms of what we've put together will work when the time comes. But that's kind of where we are with it.
So you're still kind of getting back and forth with that, nothing really to bring to us officially yet?
Now, there's nothing for you guys to review at this meeting. There will be in March.
Okay, and one thing I would like to do with this, Mateo, and I'd like you to start working on this for us, is I do want to go through and, since we're right in the middle of doing this solar utility scale ordinance, I would like to do a battery storage ordinance also, and do a wind ordinance, and do the battery storage first, and then do the wind ordinance second. I think, we've done a lot of homework on this, and we have what I consider to be a decent process. I like the overlay district. I don't know how much of that we can actually use and reuse. I like the idea of keeping it kind of in the same spot. We've had a lot of discussion about why we put it there, and I think that's all valid, but I would like to have that process started.
And there's been some conversations with Ross about those two items and kind of the next step with them. So I'll reinforce that when I talk to them.
It takes a while to get this done, but I think we should start it. At least get it rolling.
Yeah, it's not apples to apples when it comes to writing the ordinances, but there's applicable language and or themes that can be applied to all three.
And some of those themes are going to be having the compatible renewable energy ordinance.
They'll go kind of the same route the solar did. They'll be scheduled A and scheduled B.
And I don't, at the last meeting, That's still pretty new stuff. And at the last meeting, the attorney had, thought that what it takes to have a compatible renewable energy ordinance. Is that only the certain items, the setbacks and the height and all that? And is it still compatible if we have an overlay district? And
As far as, you're saying, like, if you're state nameplate or higher, can you apply a geographical restriction
Yes.
to? Yeah, so that's a solid gray area?
I know, so that's what I'm saying. So these gray areas are, something that hopefully the attorney can help us figure out as they learn this law. But that's going to apply to the wind and battery ordinance as well.
Correct.
So by kind of nailing down our solar is going to really help with those other two.
Yeah, I think it's probably, it's something to work with the attorney on. Again, I can talk with Ross about whether or not your overlay basically covers all three, or whether or not you may need to have separate overlays for each. I think that there's probably there's a pro and a con to both, and a mindset for which way you would go with both. But that's kind of an item that I can take note for our conversations with the attorney.
Yeah,
Because last time, back to they call it a CREO, Compatible Renewable Energy Ordinance.
Right.
Regarding that, when the attorney was here, it was her opinion that we're still compatible if we have an overlay. But then I joined a webinar like the next day, and I don't know, were you on that one?
I've been
It was
on a
Michigan
few.
State Extension one, and those attorneys said, it's their opinion that it's not compatible. So I think there's still some confusion.
I think, so I defer to the attorney.
Yeah.
But I think that really is, if that part isn't clarified by November, what we're trying to prep our clients on is, are you in a better position to have your overlay set up where you want these things come November? And it's determined at that point in time that that is not a permissible restriction for a CREO. It's quicker to change your zoning to get rid of your overlay than it is to go into that process assuming that you weren't allowed to, you didn't, come to find out the gray area says you could, and now you are fast tracking, trying to figure out where these things go. I defer to the attorney, I defer to time to see how these things shake out, but if you're gonna have to pick one position or the other, at this point in time, we feel that it would be easier to basically repeal the overlay geography if the state says these things can be allowed anywhere, than it is to say, oh man, we were allowed to figure out where these things can go. And as we've seen, that's a process, right? That's not something you can fast track. But if you didn't have it, you'd leave yourself exposed to kind of it going anywhere. So again, I defer to the attorney. That's part of the conversation that's been kind of floating around as it relates to the above nameplate systems.
but the state of Michigan's only on the utility scale size, right? Which is the 50.
50
Right,
megawatts.
50, 150.
But that can be the whole system. That could be
Tied together, right.
It could be
Right.
partial in a different township.
Yeah, okay.
And regarding that, the CREO, the ordinance is all ordinances. So if there's a development that comes in that's from this webinar that I listened to, saying it's coming in Livingston County and Tyrone Township, because we're in Tyrone Township, we're in Livingston County, the county would need to have a compatible ordinance also. Now, I think I don't know if they do, because, but they helped us with some of our solar ordinance, so
Right.
it's something that we need to coordinate with them to make sure that our ordinance is compatible and theirs is.
Yeah, every county planning department's phone started ringing when that information went out. So I mean, I foresee the counties, I mean, really, when you think about it, you've seen the law, it's not gonna take much to adopt a CREO, because the state told you what it is.
Yeah, there's only
Number for number, word for word.
Yeah.
So if counties have to, I think most of them will adopt that language just for the sole purpose that you were discussing, that they don't wanna leave their communities vulnerable to being dictated as not compatible because the county didn't have it, and that's a jurisdiction that the system is in.
Well, the petition drive is going right now too, so to return local control.
That's, I know, it really, time is gonna tell all, but you don't wanna run it down to the wire.
No.
I think we're gonna
Nothing we
have
want to count on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go to this with some best foot forward.
And as far as,
And that-
yeah, and as far as the moratorium is concerned, as we're making progress, we're fine with our moratorium. So as long as we're moving forward in the process.
When's the expiration on that one?
April and
No, it's like October, isn't it?
No.
I thought it was sooner than that. I thought there was another,
Yeah.
The moratorium, second extension? It is April, yeah.
So, Mateo,
It was to April, so.
We should, well, let's try to keep that, obviously, let's keep that
2
going.
months, yeah.
Yeah.
Mateo, so, the way that I understood the attorney talked about how she would help set up our ordinance is if that's enacted. So we don't gotta hurry up and shift gears if it's repealed.
I will double check the draft, that like I said, we just got it, so I will double check that, but yes, I do believe that was the intent of her system.
It sounded like she had a pretty good plan on that, but I think it's gonna help us from really shifting gears if it's repealed. And the portion of our ordinance that involves Creo and all that is only gonna apply if that's enacted.
Correct. Yeah, I will double check that language is in there.
So you think you'll have that ready for the next meeting?
The edits, I mean, she has her stuff that she puts in, she had a few comments on what we did, but nothing that's like redo all of it, it's a few if-then things. But yeah, that, you should be ready for review by March.
Great. Anything else we need to do on this? I mean, there's nothing, we just had a discussion.
Yeah.
Not much we can do.
No, that's all we can do. There's no
There's nothing
anything
to
we
do.
can pass or no motion, no.
Okay. Then we're done with that.
Yeah.
All right. Then we're back to the final call to the public.
Scott, Future White Lake Road. I appreciate you starting my time when after I give my address. Okay, the park committee is something that we should put together, but we have a supervisor that has an ego trip that doesn't want anybody involved in anything. We don't know where this infrastructure money's going. It's basically what it's used for is this COVID money. It can be used for infrastructure, and parks are one of the things you can use it on. And we have no say. We're not even kept up on what's going on with this money, and the citizens should have a say. All right, camera. I'm tired of hearing about this darn camera. It's not hurt nothing. Everybody here's got a camera. We can all take video. You want us to all go back in the back of the room? I'm not, I know it's all back to Mike. I'm sorry. But that camera there not bothering me. What bothers me more, we got a police officer back here we're paying to protect our community, that Mike's got here both meetings. And we could be keeping our community safe. The time clock, 3 minutes ain't crap. We only used up 15 minutes of the public hearing the first time. Okay? We got a couple of people, and there's a lot of stuff on the agenda we can talk about. We need a little more time. It's our time. This is our time. And you guys cancel half the meetings, so we don't get much time anyway. All right, other than that, I mean, I got much to say. I think I pretty much said it. But it's all about transparency up here. We're working together. Nothing against you guys. I know it all comes from the guy up front. But we can put people together. We got them in the community. I mean, use your people. We got a lot of smart people, a lot of good ideas. They're not being used. Like Kurt said, we got grants. We got that COVID money. We got people that got good ideas out there. We just got to use them. We come here to help, but we're not here to cause trouble. You might think so. I mean, you might not like what you hear all the time, but, I'm not perfect. Neither are these people. We just want to come help. We're trying to build our community. And I did notice some people watching the clock up there, and it's kind of rude because it's only 3 minutes. We need more time. 4 or 5 minutes ain't going to kill you guys. Because even if we get a big agenda, and you guys don't realize, even what we read in the paper here, if somebody's in here doing something, they might say something that gets our attention, say, I'd like to ask a question on that. I can't before you guys approve it. So I can't get a word in edgewise. Say, hey, listen, something just came up that I heard from that individual that I don't like, and I want to question it. But you guys go ahead and approve it, and then it's too late for us to add a comment. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, I agree that 3 minutes is ridiculous. Really what it does is it shows that you're really not interested in what the comments are of the people. If you're truly interested in what all these residents want to have an opinion on, you'd have a town hall where you'd actually take questions and answer them. See, questions and answering, not just the blank stares that you're all giving me right now. Q&A is a way that you could show that you have an interest in what the people, me too, say, right? But you're refusing to do that. You, the board refuses to do that. So being anti-resident, it's not surprising that you want to limit our time to 3 minutes. Believe me, I had a lot more than notes, but I had to crunch these down. I have a lot of other discussion points about the master plan that I can't because you won't allow me to. Because you want to rush the process forward. You want to move this along. Not once suggest, thank you, by the way, for at least talking about that you heard some of these comments from us. But no, hey, we need to move this right on to the county. We need to move it on so we can get it out of the way. We need this off our plate. Guess what? From 1999 to 2012, you didn't do anything. There's no work toward master plan, especially around parks or recreation or things like that, or public use of land. Nothing. And now from 2012 to now, you think, well, and by the way, I apologize, but I don't agree with your COVID remark. Oh, COVID hit, so the 2012. Well, COVID didn't hit until 9 years later. So what did you do for 9 years? Nothing. Zero. This has got to be based on action. Action, involvement from the residents, and actual true education. And that can't happen if you're not going to have dialogue with the people. Do you understand that? Now, I'm just a simple guy. There's nothing, I'm not that smart. But I can tell you, it's pretty obvious, the messaging and what you want to show the residents. That's obvious. You don't care. 3 minutes because someone told you that was important. It's always about what somebody tells you to how to behave. When are you guys going to start standing up for your own selves and say, as a resident, I would want to know more. I probably read this and know more about the master plan than some of you guys. Why? Because I care. I pay taxes. I want to see things happen, and that means action. Action doesn't just mean sitting up here going, let's get this off our plate. That's not action. He's the consultant, and you defer to him so much. Why don't you defer to I'd love to hear your own opinions about how things should be.
Thank you.
Still want his number. Oh, you guys are a hard crowd, I'm telling you. Okay, I believe that I would love for the lawyer to be asked this. Do we need a moratorium for the wind and the battery storage? We know, you guys may not know, but there are residents that are being approached by developers and being asked to lease their land, okay? So you want those big tall wind turbines all over the place? They're gonna be in here. We need to protect ourselves as much as we can, so please ask the lawyer if we can put a moratorium and start the wind and the battery right away. You didn't listen to people's comments. We asked you to please hold off on this. What is the rush? Bill, you don't say a word. Speak up. Tell these guys that you don't agree. Tell them, no, let's not rush this. Let's hear what the people have to say. And you know what? People contact me all the time and say, Jeanette, could you ask this? I'm like, why don't you do it? Guess what answer they get? I'm scared because you know what? We're thinking of doing some improvements, etc., and I don't want them to take it out on me. They're scared to approach you guys. This is not right. It isn't right. So I agree with what Chris said. I mean, obviously we've talked about this stuff, but when are you guys going to stand up for the residents? And I know, Steve, you won't answer an email from me. John, you quit talking to me. I asked you a very simple question online. Nobody will talk to me. You've all been told by somebody, don't talk to Jeanette. I'm a resident too. So if somebody else asks the same questions that I ask, you're gonna answer them? But not me, right? That's ridiculous. The park info was in the old 2012, and I'm hearing from Sarah since 1999. It was repackaged. So you've read it out a couple times at meetings now, John. Go back and look and see where those exact sentences were in the previous master plan. As Chris said, you repackage stuff, you haven't done anything about it. It's just more talk, more talk, more talk. Again, the moratorium for the wind. I didn't get to, what I'm gonna do is just write this all out and distribute it to the community because they are listening to me. But you know, you guys should be concerned about this. Your township deleted several of your videos on YouTube. Did you know that? I've got copies of most of them. They deleted them, so I can't go back and listen to what was said about a lot of the stuff when we first started talking about the master plan. And then when I commented, when you guys didn't have your first 12 minutes of your last meeting, did you know that? When you were voted in, et cetera, I commented and I said, you can come here and listen. Good thing I didn't go to the back of the room where you guys are trying to send me. I was able to get that audio. You guys deleted my comment. So now you're trying to censor the whole township? I know you didn't personally, but somebody did, and you should be concerned about that.
Thank you.
I feel like it's the same comment. I just want to jump back. I'm so grateful that you talked about the Parks and Rec. And the way, I just want to say out loud that the way that process works is it starts with you as a planning commission drafting that Parks and Rec plan. And if you choose to take that on, which I hope you do, please check with what the state requirements are because there's very specific language. It's not lengthy, but there's very specific language that enables us to have that open door to seeking grant funding for those projects. So it does start with the planning commission. And just because you make a Parks and Rec plan doesn't mean that you're committing us to millions of dollars and parks and recs and trails. You're right, it would go through a process. It would go to the board. But it's sort of laying the foundation so that we can, that's exploratory, I guess. And I want to just also mention what Dean talked about with the green energy being in the master plan. I've been out of the picture for a while. I don't know if there's been discussion with Mateo and with Planning Commission. It seems like that would be a logical thing to have in our master plan if we're drafting ordinances about it, because I think they work sort of reciprocally with each other, but maybe there's a strategy there that, like Mateo said earlier, that you don't want to say too much because then you're making yourselves, I don't know. But if that is something that should be there, we're drafting ordinances, I guess I want to reiterate that point for our planning commission to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm bad news. It's going to take a while.
Take your time.
My name's Connie McCarthy. I live down the road, off of Center Road. I've been in sales for, I don't know, 35 years. I come home about 6 o'clock every night. I've never made this meeting. This is the first time. I retired last year. And one thing I learned in sales is that if you're going to sell anything, you're going to give features and benefits. Features and benefits. And when I'm here and I'm up at our meetings, I'd always be the one asking the questions because I figured everybody back there is probably having the same question, doesn't want to answer it. I'm not allowed to ask questions tonight, but I have a hell of a lot of them. So I would like that town hall. I think that'd be great. I don't remember if we ever had a town hall, where people could actually come and ask you questions. Either set up town halls for certain things or whatever. But I think there's a lot of people that we're a rural community, we want to stay that way. I'm scared, I'm very scared about the solar, I'm scared about the wind. I have a hill at the back of my property. I don't want that there. I know there's a lot of hills in Tyrone Township up there. All those trees that have to come down. You know, and when big business gets into it, you know what happens. So I'm just asking that I think there's a lot of people that are really busy in our township but are concerned. And I would like to know if there's some way that we can get more communication going and more features and benefits to our people that live here, so they know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Murray, Germany Road. 2 items. One's long overdue. We need a public address system so people in the back of the room could hear exactly what's being said up here. This has been going on way too long. Item 2, the map that shows the proposed solar farm at Old US 23 at White Lake Road. I'm surprised in more ways than one. 2 of the residents that own property there, private property, know nothing about this. Why is that? How can you put a map up there with a proposed solar farm without talking to all the residents about this proposed solar farm? How can you do that? So if you're interested, contact the address at 11061 and also 11009. Neither one of those private property owners know a thing about the solar farm proposal. And the other item, the guy that's got the property that's on the northeast side, it's about 7 acres. His property drops off immensely. The house is built in the woods. There are pole barns in the woods, and the back of the property drops off. There's that very active stream. There's all kind of ponds around here. How can that even be pit for a solar farm? So you have the old paintball business. That property's been up for sale for years and years. I can see why he wants a solar farm. It's 25 acres, but you're putting this solar farm next to an active stream, all kind of ponds. It makes no sense at all. And how can that map be put out there without talking to every resident that owns property on this map? How can you do that? How did that happen? I own 21 acres. If somebody all of a sudden put up some kind of a business structure on my property, didn't tell me about it, I'd be very unhappy. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I hope you get a public address system so I don't have to speak so loud. But I want everybody in the back to hear what's going on. And like I say, I stopped by the one resident, he had no idea that they're thinking about putting all these solar panels around his wonderful house built in the woods. So you need to take a second look at this and see what's going on. This is not fair to the residents of this township. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, come on up.
Deanna Seitler, live on Walnut Shores Drive. I'm not organized in my comments, but you do lack transparency. And from the comments that were made earlier in public comment, this solar and wind issue is a big deal. And I don't care what Lansing has said. You guys are our voices, and you need to protect us from this. And to just ignore it and push forward the plan that you already have, that's not fair to the people. We're your constituents. You need to protect us from this. And there's many people that have come here and spoke about it and made comments, and you just blow it off like it's not a big deal. And what Ed just said, that's unbelievable. You need to do something about this, and you should not be putting forward your master plan as it is. There needs to be something in there to protect us, that you're at least considering it and looking into it and trying to find a way around this. It's not right. I've lived in this township my entire life. My dad ran this township as Royce Hyde. And you don't have a town hall, you don't communicate with people, you need to be doing that. People are not happy with this stuff. And we don't feel like, I definitely don't feel like you're protecting us. And that's your job. That's what you're here for. You don't have any passion about this issue at all. It's like, oh, Lansing passed these laws and we just have to like come up with something that's compatible. No, you don't. You need to fight back. That's the American way. Do something, stand up, and don't just take it as they dish it out. Because this is a rural community, and we do not need to have our beautiful lands covered in wind turbines and solar panels. Something needs to be done, and we have to look to you guys to stand up for us.
Steve Atkinson, Sheridan Park. I just want to get some clarification, so a little question and answer. You guys are talking about between 50 and 150 megawatt solar farm? Is that what I could hear back there?
We're not supposed to have a question and answer, but it's.
I'm just trying to get clarification.
The
with my
state
next-
rules start at 50.
Start at 50. So does everybody in here know how big a 50 megawatt solar farm is? It's 100, 120 acres. It's over 100.
And that's
So-
the minimum, like the minimum.
Yeah, minimum is 120 acres.
Town towers, how many towers?
It's a lot.
I know.
I work for the power company, and I try not to admit that to many people, because
Good for you.
there's a place up in London where it's at least a square mile of solar panels, and the land is useless. They're 5 foot off the ground, there's an 8-foot fence all the way around it. The land is trash. Do we want that here? I don't, and I don't think a lot of other people do. I think that we should extend that moratorium indefinitely. It's not anything I want in my backyard, so,
Do you live in the township?
I do.
So that's what I was talking about, communication. It'd be nice if we had somebody living in the township right now who could be telling us a lot of information in town hall. Even you guys who live in that property. Not that he gets his question answered, but I don't get mine answered. Do all those guys live here? These guys live here?
So we talked a lot about this, and he's talked a lot about this solar wind. You know, we talked about how these boards, not only you guys, I think you guys probably listen more to us than what our township board is. I appreciate you that. But for all of you, if you're tired of not having people listen to you, come to the golf course, 4 o'clock on Thursday. We're in a township hall, and you'll meet some people who are willing to fight for this community.
Yep. And can we get it on Facebook or Thursday?
4 o'clock at the golf course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Facebook. Yeah.
Great.
Anything else?
You guys attend?
Anything else?
Will you come?
Seeing nothing, all right, we will close the call to the public and miscellaneous business.
I got one thing too.
Okay.
Starting all of next week, we have the early voting in here, the presidential primaries. So we are canceling the workshop. We have nowhere to hold it.
Okay. John?
Regarding someone mentioned a proposed solar farm. There's been no proposed solar farms that came our way, right?
No,
So maybe someone's confused on a proposed solar overlay map.
yes.
So,
Explain it.
so that overlay district, so we have a solar ordinance that is under moratorium now, and we're working on redeveloping it. In that new ordinance, right now, we're going with a overlay district. So a potential solar development could only come in this district. And we decided we're only going to put that district in the areas of industrial use that we put in our future land use map. And not all those may be able to withstand a solar farm. Then they can't develop it. They got to meet all the rules and the regulations in that ordinance. So we're not saying, hey, we're going to put a solar farm in your woods by your house.
it was open.
And so in regards to the public act that was enacted, if there is a moratorium, that completely wipes away local control if it's over 50 megawatts. If there's a moratorium in place when that's enacted, or when they send in an application.
The state can come in.
So what we're trying to do is retain the local control as much as possible by having a CREO, compatible renewable energy ordinance, and then we can retain control of that. If it's over 50, if it's under 50, we're gonna have a little, we're still working through that ordinance with Mateo and the attorney, but then there'll be different regulations.
And one more thing I'll mention on that is if someone has property, there's no way that someone can come on your property and say, we're gonna put solar on here. You would have to agree to that.
Right.
So that's like, you would have to sign an easement or something like that with them. And we are trying to do the best we can, given the set of circumstances we have to deal with.
I know I'm not on the topic, but what you're just saying right now is more information than probably a lot of people do. We just need to know more.
We had, in prior meetings, we would go and have a back and forth, and it got out of control, and we were given a directive by the board to shut it down. Period.
We have town hall, and we can have the questions.
Come on Thursday.
Can I go?
But anyway, that's, I think that, anybody else
That's all
have
I have.
anything? Okay.
Kevin?
No. Kevin?
No, hold on.
All right, we're gonna, that's it, meeting's adjourned.
Are we 15 minutes?